the genesis of Perplexity as a scholarly research tool.
How easy it is for me to go through all the cited sources on the right-hand side.
Does that give the clear advantage in user adoption?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is November 8th, 2024. You're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And if you can see our screen, then you know today is all about the jousting match between Chatgpt search and Perplexity. And so our goal today, in a little bit of a tool review, sometimes on every other Friday we do a tool review. So this kind of falls in the category for that. But Chatgpt search, I think that's what they call it, Search GPT. It was Search GPT, now they're calling it Chatgpt for search. It came out, was publicly available. I didn't have it till just like maybe a week or two ago. I know other people have had it for some time, depending on whether they had betas and whatnot. But the first thing I heard many people say, whether it was on LinkedIn, whether it was my own CEO or other people, say like, oh, this is the Perplexity killer. Here they come. They've eliminated the vote for Perplexity. And so, we have a high standard, well, not a high standard. We have a high, I can't think of the word I want, appreciation, whatever. That's not the word I want for Perplexity on this show, because I think it's rightfully so. It's sort of stood the test of time so far. Actually, I don't want to speak for everybody. I feel like we all feel like the tool has actually gotten better over time. But if you look at Perplexity and what they're doing, and then look what Google has done and stuff like that, it's not shocking to see other tools like a ChatGPT say like, hey, it seems like when you do this search and you filter out, the top 5 or 6 results or whatever, and then you just put that in a really nice format, people really seem to like that because they don't have to jump to all the pages. Can't we just do that in ChatGPT? So that's what we're here to discuss today. And I know I have a case study example side by side that I can share, but let's just kind of kick off the conversation. Andy, I like to always throw it to you. Maybe it's fair or not fair on Perplexity, but that's because personally, I feel like you're the one that swayed me early on. And so I don't know, in my brain, you're like sort of our lead Perplexity guy. I don't know if that's fair anymore, but that's the way I feel about it. So sorry to Jyunmi or Beth, that maybe not accurate anymore, but I'm still going to kick it over to you, Andy, and to get us started on this conversation.
Thanks. When Perplexity first came out, and I think on a show we did about Perplexity, I shared the genesis of Perplexity as a scholarly research tool. That was Aravind Srinivas's idea for what Perplexity would become. Now, Perplexity has become a much more capable utility in lots of different ways and has incorporated large language models to a large degree and with great variety. So it is, matured, and I won't claim that I assisted in any way with the advent of Perplexity as a comparable tool to Chatgpt, and even surpassing it, at least until now, on the search dimension. And I let me just say that I've done also a case study comparison of a line of inquiry in Perplexity and with Search GPT. And there are really big differences between the outcomes there, and we can share those and show you. And I'm going to just say that Search GPT is not a Perplexity killer. Perplexity is going to survive. It's going to be around. It's one of the survivors in the landscape of competitors in AI. It has endurance, let's say. But search is now table stakes for answering any kind of query. If there is a need for looking at up-to-date current information, then every platform out there needs to have search built into it. And Google, of course, wouldn't contest that. So I think, again, table stakes, you've got to have search in there. Search GPT is nice, and it blends it smoothly into the presentation of text that ChatGPT presents back. But it's still, in terms of user interface and all the niceties of incorporating search, it's far behind, and we'll see this demonstrated in side-by-side screen comparisons here shortly. It's far behind Perplexity.
I think. Well, I will. I'll preface by saying, so we can get to what Jyunmi and Beth want to talk about. But I don't know that mine's that different, and where I want to talk about in my case study and talk with you guys about is the quality of the citations. Because I really feel like, and that's something I'm going to do live. I haven't actually looked at the citations specifically side to side. I wanted to wait for the show to do it live because I felt like that part would move fast enough. Because really what I think this gets at is if you're the general user and you're trying to decide which side, which tool you want to use for a particular one. In my case, I had it write a blog article, and I'll explain I'll show you the prompts for that, why I decided to do that in a sales example. But for me, it really comes down to the quality of the citations. And at least early on, I was seeing some trip ups, I guess would be the right word for it, inside of ChatGPT, where I felt like Perplexity had already sort of solved some of these issues in terms of the types and quality of the citations. But it seems like that's maybe being cleaned up. I don't know if you guys have had that same experience, but I will tell you, in the very first day, like a week ago, of using Search GPT, it would show me sources. And it made it look like, oh, this one came from VentureBeat, this one came from Tech, whatever, Crunch, this one came from Apple, whatever. But when you actually clicked on them, every single one of them would be like VentureBeat. It'd be the first source, and they wouldn't populate through. Despite it visually looking right, it actually wasn't. Now, I don't think that's ChatGPT was trying to pull the wool over my eyes. I quite literally think it was a problem. It was a bug. And so I didn't see that today, but I'm curious to see if any of you guys initially versus today, or whenever you first had it versus today, when you looked at it in Dan or yesterday, like, do you feel like maybe even ChatGPT or excuse me, Search ChatGPT, GPT Search, whatever the hell it's called, is working better now than it was even like a week ago? Jyunmi, Beth, Karl, anybody? Karl's here, by the way.
Yeah. I think when I first got it, I was lucky enough to get onto the beta sequence. And after all getting over the, all right, cool, finally, search, let's try it out. I think my initial impressions were, this is a great basic search feature, right? This is what you used to use Google for, right? You could find a location. You could look up a source video. The sources in particular, I didn't run into the same issue, and I did like how they were displayed as a sidebar. So there was some UI things that I enjoyed, but the fact that it was a separate product and took me out of chat, that I didn't like, because I'm just refocusing my energies and things like that. But once they integrated that, right, once you could activate that all from the same conversation, then that fixed all of my initial issues. I think I think the main takeaway that I've got from it is, it's got the basic features. I can find where stuff are. It can give me sources on any information that it's giving me. And it all does it within the same conversation, so I can go back to my conversation. Now, once these features get integrated with the other models, because it's only for 4.0, you can't use it with 4.0 Canvas, and you can't use it with 0.1. I did find myself using Canvas more to try and integrate, document editing processes and features like that. That's not quite there either, but that's a different review. But I think if they can get Search GPT integrated with 4.0 Canvas, and then I think they've got a great omni-channel kind of thing using their language, right? Because the main thing is, I don't want to have to go somewhere else. If I have all my tools right there, I don't want to have to go over here, over there. And that's why, like I said before, if Perplexity takes that Netflix approach and just gets integrated everywhere, then it'll just be second nature. Now, in terms of quality of output, I definitely get more from Perplexity than Search GPT, especially when I'm trying to do a research. Like if I'm going in researching for the show, now that could be a little bit of I've just used Perplexity more because specifically because doing research for the show. But I get more from it. And from the features that I've tested in the pro environment, such as pages and those kinds of things, that offers more to me. Now, we've been seeing a lot of desktop versions coming out. Was it you, Brian, who had mentioned or one of you have you have the desktop version for chat, Perplexity, all of those kinds of things. And so, once we get to that level where we are at the OS level, then it probably doesn't matter which platform. We'll be platform agnostic at that point. But right now, I like being able to do everything.
Real quick, because I think it'll be interesting for the conversation, and I'll call mine out too. When I show my side-by-side, just to be fair, I'm using paid Chatgpt versus paid Perplexity. And I think that's important because because as you were talking, Jimmy, I'm like, oh shoot, we should talk about which one you were using because that was my question. So in your case, Jimmy, when you were looking side by side today, did you use free Perplexity or did you use the paid version of it?
Well, just to throw in a complexity for Perplexity, I was using the free, but with the pro tab turned on because you get those 5.
Right. Yeah. So it should be, other than the fact that you maybe didn't select a different base model because you wouldn't have been able to do that. You did use the pro, so it should have whatever their default base language model is. Sonar, I think it would do that.
Before we get into any comparisons, I want to explain why I think Perplexity has an advantage, could be a short-term advantage. And that is they've had a lot more time to figure out how to refashion whatever your query is, whatever your prompt is, into a succession of necessary searches in order to examine the different facets of that question. I don't see that happening in Search GPT right now. I think they'll get there. But Perplexity shows you, as it starts to process your question, it shows you, okay, do a search on this part of it. Now, also do a search on this part of it and do a search on this part. And it collects all those things and then forms its answer. ChatGPT or Search GPT in this case, it came back with some nice answers, but it didn't get to all the edges that Perplexity did. So I think Perplexity is better at this point.
So I'm going to jump in here and just share my bias. I agree with Jen in the chat who said she's a Perplexity. Perplexity is her choice. I also have a bias toward Perplexity. I really expected this to be something that I adored Perplexity for, and I was not going to be happy with the search that I got from ChatGPT. But Perplexity, I have told what I like the context that I want it to be searching in, and ChatGPT has been updating the memory based on what I've actually done. And I kind of feel like this is one of those things where if you let the assessor discover the kind of person that would match with you best versus what you've said you want, sometimes the assessment is a better targeter in that kind of thing, like in the dating sites. I really was not ready for this. I use Perplexity all the time. So in some ways, Perplexity has more information about me. But the way that gets used in the context of my search has to be a manual thing that I add, because Perplexity doesn't update a memory kind of thing. And I was not ready for the result that I got. I mean, it's good, but
I'm going to provide a counterpoint, which is that in the comparison of the two, ChatGPT may know a lot more about me, and that might give it a little bit of nuance on how it translates the search. But all I can do with ChatGPT is I can share that result. In Perplexity, I can create a space and I can add that result to a space and start a collection.
yeah,
I don't think ChatGPT's there yet. So as a research tool, Perplexity does have a way of maintaining a memory of sorts, in the form of the collection that you create in the space.
Absolutely. And you can do that in multiple ways, right? ChatGPT has one memory of me that it keeps adding to, and I can have lots of silos of information and kind of searches. But the other thing about this, like the thing that really surprised me, was on the first search, ChatGPT gave me what I wanted, and I literally copied what I asked when I went to Perplexity, and Perplexity gave me something that was a misunderstanding of what I'd asked for. And I was like, whoa, right? Like, this is back to that, like, whoa, it gets me. And it does, like, I thought we had this, like, sympathetic kind of question, like,
What model do you have the Perplexity set to use?
Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
Yeah. I just wondering, it's just not a perfect comparison, but I think I have mine set to Claude 3.5 Sonnet New, and which is arguably, at least in the top 3, it's on the podium, for AI models out there.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Karl, and then we'll share some use cases here.
Yeah, I wanted to just point to, I think, who was it that said, their CFO, OpenAI CFO said that they have 250 million users per week. And I think 10 to 15% are paid. So that's like 250,000. So I would imagine, and that'll be coming up in the next couple months, they are the only people who have this right now are paid users. So it's a very, very small set.
Wait. If there's 250 million and it's 10%.
Isn't it 10 to 15? So isn't that 250,000?
No.
Really?
No. 250 million. 1% would be.
Oh, wait, sorry. I put it down to 200. Sorry, I put it to 2.5 million.
Yeah. So there's a lot of users out there.
Yes. Although if you look at it that way, it's still a small percentage, right? Because I'm comparing it to a Facebook. So Facebook's 2 billion users.
Yeah.
And all of them, there is no paid account. You just go do whatever you want. So
yeah, do we know how many people are currently using or paying for Perplexity?
Probably a much smaller version.
Things by comparison, I'm sure. It's only the cognoscenti who know just how powerful Perplexity is.
Now I have to use Perplexity to figure out what you just said. Thanks, Andy. Now I got to do new searches again. By the way, I think this is worth pointing out. And okay, a couple things here. Number one, I really feel like we should stay as close to apples as we can in today's conversation, because yes, there's spaces, and yes, there's custom GPTs, and yes, there's these things, but apples to apples, I gave it like this. I needed it to do this job, and I needed to do this job over here. And as best we can, we should be looking side to side. However, I do want to at least point out a couple of things. Number one, Perplexity, back to Jen's comment here. I want to bring this up because Jen said, insert romantic music. Nothing will ever kill Perplexity for me. Yeah, talk to me in a year, Jen. Come back and keep coming back to the show, and let's have this conversation in a year and tell me that something won't kill Perplexity for you. I'm not saying it will. And this goes to my point of what I wanted to bring up, that Perplexity is doing a lot of investing, but we've all had these tools where we think, well, this is it. I am early adopter and I love this to death. And then something comes like Jyunmi's talking about that is embedded in some other tool that you're already using, and you go, oh crap, I'm not going to go outside of this tool. I know I'm not, and I'm like, yeah, I can still love Perplexity, but I'm not leaving ChatGPT, perhaps. So I did want to bring up that just from 2 days ago, Perplexity raises new funds at $9 billion valuation. This is their 4th round of 2024. 4th. So Perplexity is getting money quickly, a $9 billion valuation. I think they started the year at like 100 million or something like that. It's a crazy jump. The company has raised 73 million in Series B funding since January. The funding round that had the value of the company around 520 million. I think that might have been before this. All right. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. And another just thing that came out with Perplexity, but doesn't necessarily have relevance to today, I just wanted to bring it up, is that Perplexity just said, hey, our citations will now be available as part of our API. Big differentiator. Big differentiator there. Now we're not going to be talking about API most likely today. We're talking about using the tools in their homes versus doing API calls, unless I'm wrong, unless somebody else did that. But that is a big differentiator and something that we will have to see what happens with ChatGPT's or OpenAI's API. Because let me tell you something, getting citations as part of your API answers, big deal for me. I have a project going on right now where that's like I had to stop what I was doing and send that email on to some people at the company that we're working on projects. This is that big of a deal. So I wanted to bring up those two things and also just kind of poke fun a little bit at Jen's comment. Not at Jen, obviously, we love you, Jen, but like at the idea that there's some AI tool. I'll put ChatGPT out there. Like, there's a possibility in 2025 that I'm like, wow, I never log into ChatGPT anymore. It's possible. It's possible. So anyway, Andy, do you want to do your side-by-side first and I'll pull mine up? I don't know if anybody else has one too, but you want to start us off?
I think Beth has one. Did you say you had a side-by-side?
No, I mean, I did the exact same question, but I didn't prep it as
Okay, here, I'll do mine. I think.
Oh, before you guys get going here, just remember, like, though, I think one of the things that we want to go test around is the information, navigation, and no-go do. So I was like, it'd be nice to see if we could test the do part. Like, could we actually do transactions? And then how easy is it to actually go to a specific site that we want to go to, right? So like, we want to go here. I still find those two are kind of hit and miss when I want to go somewhere. If I want to go somewhere, first of all, the plugin, I hate that plugin. That plugin actually is very like contrary to what Google has trained me to kind of do. Because sometimes you're like, hey, I have a, let's say for example, respell. I need to get on there quickly and I don't have it on my bookmarks bar. It just, when I'm using the ChatGPT plugin, it's kind of like, it gives me respell, but I was like, it's so much faster to just go there rather than having to go to something and then go there. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of moving pieces in addition, because search, I think what Google has done is made search an integral part of a whole bunch of different actions that we do. So it's fascinating how they'll have to update themselves to kind of get up to that human behavior.
And I agree with that. I also want to say, just at the out thing, we're talking about comparing AI search engines. Like, neither ChatGPT nor Perplexity are more than let's see, what is the stat? Is less than 0.5% of all search activity, because they don't even come into, like, they're behind DuckDuckGo and Baidu. Right? Like, when was the last time you used DuckDuckGo? Like,
every day.
Sorry.
Yeah. Or Mozilla or Firefox I guess were those search engines? Was Mozilla? No, that was just a company, wasn't it?
Or no, like, it's a super relevant question, which is why we're doing a show on it. And it is a very niche question.
Yeah, it's valid. Andy, what do you got? You want to pull up?
Okay, so here's the setup. I was in a conversation and it kind of emerged that, the whole issue of climate change didn't seem to really elevate to, the highest level of discussion in the political discourse leading up to the election. So I asked both ChatGPT search and also Perplexity this question using the very, very same language for it. Find articles and news showing that climate change was a prominent issue for the Democratic Party platform. And here's ChatGPT's response. It basically gives you the answer, and it shows that, oh no, it was definitely a part of it. They were engaged, blah, blah, and we won't go into the details here. But now look at the difference. Here's Perplexity. Okay, it gives you these little, source links, and you can kind of read those. They're legible, right? It's not just a little link down at the bottom as a citation. It's showing you the articles that it collected in the process. And here it lays out the Democratic platform position, the campaign strategy shift. This is the piece that came through that was missing entirely in ChatGPT. Despite the platform's strong climate focus, the issue has received less prominent campaign attention than expected. They actually decided at the Democratic convention that climate was not a primary focus, and they didn't even discuss it in the first 3 days. And then here's the strategic reasoning for why it didn't emerge. And here's how it contrasts with the Republicans. I think that got deeper into the answer than I expected. And I think that that's the thing that I was referring to when I said there's a really big difference in the edge case analysis that Perplexity did as compared to what ChatGPT did. And by the way, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT. I'm not giving it up. I'm a subscriber, and it does a lot of things for me, especially custom GPTs.
I find it really interesting and an interesting experiment if we put in our rules, right? If we put in our custom instructions to display and analyze the information, do this, look at it this way, display it this way, would that close that gap in what information is displayed? So I'm not. I can definitely see the differences, and I prefer the Perplexity answer for sure. But I'm wondering if we can close that gap through extra things like custom instructions and things like that.
Yeah, I think well, listen, I'll share my example, and maybe there's a little bit more of that in mine, Jimmy, that we can look at. But I do think it's a valid point that this goes back to quality of prompting and specificity of prompting. And you're right, that may close the gap there. It's an interesting question, nonetheless. So in my example, I'll just share my screen. We'll start with the ChatGPT side of the house. I want to go, I know it's probably a little small on the screen, but I want to just kind of give you an idea of what the prompt was. So I actually did use a quick markdown on this just to make it easy for everybody to understand, so it wasn't one big blob of text. So the act as was act as a marketing expert who prepares blogs for your company. The context, you work for Mountain. And then I gave it the shortened name and as well as the website. And you're writing helpful blogs, blog articles for potential clients interested in digital advertising. That's what the company Mountain does. Criteria, the blog must be extremely helpful and subtly connect the pain points brought up in the blog with associated value propositions offered by Mountain. Be sure the blog is not salesy. The reader should be able to connect the dots. In real prompting, I would be much more specific in that, just throwing that out there. And then the instructions here, take my variable as the target persona, and by doing high relevant and very recent web searching, and I was very specific with my wording there because I wanted to make sure that they were both hopefully intentionally pulling relevant newer sources, create 3 blog ideas, and be sure to cite any sources. Then, so I have a couple of steps here. Then once the user, me, picks the idea, write a blog outline. Once I approve the blog outline, I want you to write the full blog draft. Once I approve the draft, I want you to come up with 5 potential SEO-rich titles for the blog that would gain the attention of a target audience. And I said, okay, here's my target persona. Here's my variable for this. So it's a repeatable, reusable prompt here. That would be the VP of marketing in the commercial automotive repair industry. And I purposely picked, I think it's weird not having this on here. There we go. I purposely picked, a sub-industry that's not just a no-brainer, that I felt like, oh, you're going to have to go do some searching for this. Like, this is not an obvious give me if I was working at Mountain, right? Because like commercial automotive repair, that's a small niche of a subset of the industry. But this is what salespeople are dealing with all the time. Like, yeah, dude, that's where I sell into. I can't change that. So are these tools capable of helping somebody, AKA a rep or a marketing agency, put a blog together that's of high enough quality that they would feel confident then turning around and demonstrating or showing that to the target persona? That's what we're trying to figure out here. And are the citations good enough side by side? Now, I'll show you what we got here on the ChatGPT side, but just know that that is the identical prompt. I'll show it to you, but that's the identical prompt with 0 changes that I used in Perplexity. A lot of people don't realize that you can write like this in Perplexity, and I think that's a good sort of aha for people, because I didn't realize that either. I kind of saw Perplexity as a Google search, and I used it that way, but it's also capable of writing and doing prompts just like you can in ChatGPT. So you can put this exact same prompt and use the same kind of prompting that you would with advanced methodology and like step-by-step process markdown method. It works in Perplexity too. So I just wanted to call that out. Okay, obviously we're not going to read through all this. What I want to point out is a couple things. Number one, it never showed me searching here. I don't know if that's something new or whatever. It was blazing fast in its result. I mean, it put these citations on the right-hand side of this screen faster than I could blink. There was no searching. Let me look into this. I don't know. Sometimes I get worried because it used to show us that. Did it skip over my actual instruction that it needed to do recent web searching and pull something from its LLM? But it is pulling these citations on the right. So we got our 3 ideas. I said I liked number 1 because it was navigating digital transformation and commercial auto repair marketing. And it gave me a kind of a sub idea of why I would like that. I said, look, that sounds good and very specific to this VP, right? I like number 1. It wrote me the outline. And this is really where we get into the insights. So I'm just going to kind of hover over. This one is actually from October 15, 2024. I would call that very recent. I would even say this one from August 10th of 2023, considering what we're asking for, I would still call that recent. It's not a 97 article or something like that, right? Now, I would have to click into these and validate this against this, because that's where I've seen ChatGPT fall down before. It's citing it, but the citations seem to be slightly off. I will say it looks a little bit better here. We have one from AutoLeap, so we're not just using the same citation like I told you earlier in the show that I ran into. We actually have a variety, which I consider to be a benefit, of different cited sources so that we're not going to get bias introduced. So hopefully we're not going to get bias into this. And I think it's really easy on the right-hand side, which you were saying, Jyunmi, didn't exist in the past. Look how easy it is for me to look at everything that it apparently, I'm not saying it did. This could be a little bit of a hallucination, a little bit of a smoke and mirrors, but how easy it is for me to go through all the cited sources on the right-hand side. That's a huge benefit. And like you were saying, Jyunmi, that didn't used to be the case because it was 2 separate tools. So
by the way, let me just add that when you do your search in Search GPT, it'll actually collapse all of this you see on the right, the citations, into just a little bubble at the bottom of the result that says sources. You have to click on that to get the citations to appear.
Correct. That's right. And I must have done that in order for that. It doesn't just show up over there. You're right. It's the little bubble right here with all the little icons. Okay. I know we don't have a ton of time to like dive deep into this, but here we go. We got the blog and it's citing in the blog. I also think this is important. Because these are callback links that I could use in the future live version of the blog, because I might want to cite these sources to give my blog more credibility. Hey, look, there's other people from places you may know that are saying the same thing about the digital industry trend. What these blogs both do is really try to talk about, hey, you're probably not using traditional digital marketing because you're in automotive industry and more than likely you're still doing word of mouth and flyers. And so it's trying to show how digital transformation can be applied to a legacy sub-industry. Pretty cool, right? That's something I could definitely see me using. And then finally at the bottom, we get our 5 SEO-rich blog titles, of which, I'm sure there's one in there that's pretty good. Of course, I can use for more. Okay, quickly, we're going to jump over. And now we're on the Perplexity side. Don't have to go through it, but so you can just see it's identical. So then, as Andy pointed out here, now we have a little bit of an understanding at the top of what is actually going through. And it's not terribly different from ChatGPT because we did get them on the right-hand side of the screen, but we can see a little bit of that reasoning, I guess that search, I guess on Perplexity, you feel like you're getting maybe a little bit more in line and it's telling you what it's going to do. Says it's wrap that up, then I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this. Then we have our sources. So if we just hover over here, this, I don't know what date this is, which is a little concerning. So I'd have to click on them to find out the dates. But at least this one's referencing 2025. That's probably pretty good. 2024. And then we'd have to view our other 2 sources. So would like to be able to see the dates right off the bat because it's one less click I have to do. It gave me 3 ideas. I picked, you can see wherever my answer is here. I said, I like 3. So it works just like ChatGPT. People, I don't think realize that you could just say that. It's not another full search. It's literally just answering what it does. And you can see it said, which blog idea would you like me to develop further? Just like ChatGPT. I said, I like number 3. And then we did our outline. Then from the outline, obviously more human involvement here. There'd be more human in the loop than I did because I just said yes to everything. Yes, you could write the full blog now. And then it's, here we go, building the custom, whatever, the evolution, building, so on and so forth. No inline citations in here. So now I would have to go back in Perplexity and figure out, okay, where did you get that from? How can I validate what you just said? I see your citations at the top, but where are they? Which ones did you go to? To me, ChatGPT wins on that side. A lot wins. It's a big deal to me that I wouldn't have to do so much extra work. Now, side by side, this one, I unfortunately wasn't as apples to apples. By the way, I like Perplexity's final SEO rich answers, because it actually told me the targeted SEO words that I was going after. And it actually tells you right here. This is better, by the way, than ChatGPT's answer. I mean, like a lot better. So this, I totally would give the win to Perplexity on the fourth part of it. Okay, so let me stop sharing. Quick. That's a quick. There's a lot more there. If I was doing this for real, just to lay this out, I would do a better prompt. My prompting would be much more detailed about the context and the criteria of what I want, but I wrote this fairly quickly. 2, I would be much more human in the loop. After getting the couple ideas, I may reject all 3 of those and ask for a few more. I might actually at that point be human in the loop and say, oh, you know what? You started going this direction. I actually want to focus 2025 more. I didn't say that, but I do. You've made me aware, and so on and so forth through it. I like the writing style, but that could be on Perplexity because it was using Claude 3.5 new, and I tend to always like Claude's writing style out of the box better than 4.0. And I didn't think, I should have, to keep it apples to apples, I didn't think to use the 4.0 model in Perplexity, but that would have been a better comparison. Outside of that, now without clicking through every single citation, which I would have to validate, and it would take me a while to do that, I do like ChatGPT's response better. I like that I don't have to jump through more hoops as the user, that I can simply see where the citations came from. I have a list of citations on the right that I can further research, just like Perplexity, but it's there. And it's in line when it wrote the blog to tell me, hey, when I wrote this section, this is what I was pointing to. And in Perplexity, you could see that wasn't there. So now as the user, it's on me. The onus is on me to go do more work. And as the user, I want to do less work. I want a fully functional blog, and I want to know it's cited, and I want to know there's no hallucinations in there. And I want to push this over to my marketing team and say, send this out. I need this as a sales rep. I need this to exist so I can reference back to it. Okay. What do you guys think on that?
I have a comment. On the right-hand panel, you saw in Perplexity's output, it has colorful blocks that are representations of different resources that you can turn to that are relevant to the question. And I've seen that and used it with questions where it's surfacing YouTube videos over there. So if you want to kind of dig deeper for 10 minutes or whatever, you can click on a YouTube video on the right. I don't know that Search GPT is going to include those kinds of tools in the near future, and eventually I'm sure it will. But having full depth search across YouTube is a useful feature.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hey, Brian, I sent you a note. For fun, can you copy your prompt, open Google, and see if it works? What happens if
I don't think anything's going to happen, but we'll find out. I don't think that's going to do anything, but let's find out.
Just to see if overviews kicks in. And
the first thing it brought up was mountain.com.
Okay.
It's just search. I don't know what to do with that. Yeah, I don't know what to do.
Okay, so I wanted to catch that.
So another point on your demo, Brian, is that the initial output from Perplexity will have citations in line. Like they have a little numbered, circle that you can click on to go to the source. But when you're asking it to do a second job, which is go out and use Claude 3.5 Sonnet New and generate this thing, it's not carrying that forward, which is a very useful thing. The full integration into the output on ChatGPT is better for your specific purpose.
Oh, for sure. And this is a specific use case, for sure. I'm not saying this is like, oh my God, ChatGPT is blown away Perplexity. You're right. This is a very specific use case. In this one, side by side, I would be perfectly happy with the ChatGPT version of it. I mean, honestly, I read them. They're both high quality blogs. I think even they're like both of them are like 80% there. But if I'm just going to, in this use case, look at it side by side and say, okay, I'm the user and I need to do this a lot in my job. I'm going to be in sales and I'm going to do this a lot. Which one is a lower lift for me? And which one, back to Jyunmi's point, am I probably already in already? ChatGPT. Nothing. I love Perplexity. I do. I love the visuals. I love the visual outlay of it. I like how it's displayed better. I like that it gives me follow-up suggestions. I love Perplexity. I'm certainly not, what on it. But in this case, I gotta say, there's more check marks for ChatGPT on this one.
There's a couple of things well, first of all, I wanted to clarify, Andy, Search GPT does include YouTube videos, especially if you ask for it a how-to. It'll go grab a YouTube video immediately to show you how to do something. The second thing is I wanted to bring up Cisco's comment earlier, and that's the question about ads. If ChatGPT, if OpenAI has no intention to ever include ads within their product, or at least within their paid product, then does that give the clear advantage in user adoption than opposed to Perplexity, which has already announced that they're going to be putting ads into their product?
And I want to add that how Perplexity, our event actually explained how they were putting ads. They're putting ads in the follow-up questions. So if you do a search, you have the answers, they're not going to put ads inside, obviously, generative answers. I think that really destroys the credibility in there, but they're going to put it in the follow-up. So you have a set of follow-up questions that you want to do, then, you can click that follow-up question. Although if you click the follow-up question by the, it's paid follow-up question, you're still not getting taken to that person's website. You're just taken to a different answer. Sure, that person's or that company's links may be or being sourced there, but does that, think about how many times, Brian, would you actually go to the source? As long as the source is there, you're like, okay, sounds good. I want my answer. I got my answer, or I'm going somewhere. Going. That significantly decreases the incentive. Oh, you do.
I do, but I'm not saying I'm the typical user. I always go to the source because
okay.
I have a healthy distrust of language models and hallucinations. So I've been burned enough to know that I need to go look. But both of them I would say Perplexity makes it a little bit easier to go grab that source and look at it really quickly. So I don't think it's a huge lift anymore like it used to be. Perplexity is probably a little bit easier to do that.
But as humans, we're naturally lazy. So I would imagine a lot of people will not be doing that. They'll be like, as long as the source is there with, it has the logo of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Fox News, CNN, whatever blog you trust, done, right? I'll see it. So,
Karl, follow-up question for you.
Sure.
Did he say how they'll be displaying the ads, like the layout? Like, is it going to be intermixed with the sources? Like, one will just say ad, but it's like in between the list of sources as ad?
I don't know, because all he said was the focus is trying to put it inside the follow-up question. So the follow-up question will be a question that it's actually running now. I haven't seen any of it so far, but the follow-up question will be from the company. But I'm not sure what happens when you click on that follow-up question. Will the answers still be generated and there'll be one or two sources from that company? But even then, like I said, that's not going to guarantee them anything that you're going to click through. That just guarantees that you've asked a question that the company wants you to ask. Like, it's fantastic.
It's true. Because I don't actually really use the follow-up questions. If I have a follow-up question, I'll type it in as a secondary question. So I'm wondering, is it only going to be those like 4 follow-up questions that they feed you at the end of your answer?
I don't know. I'm curious to see, because obviously Google still has the massive, from the web search. I think Beth, you were saying point whatever or any of these, ChatGPT or Perplexity. But you have to think, especially with AI overviews being more prevalent now. Of course, you can't follow up and ask a question for any of them. So I was like, thanks, but I want to know more. I'm curious to see, because I think all of us know we're pretty tired of going to Google for anything and you're getting wall to wall of ads up, down, left, and then you can't, like, if the organic, it's like there's nothing. And then obviously featured snippets, and all the marketers talk about, 0-click ads and 0-click searches and things like that. So will this be enough to force Google to do, because really don't have to do anything. It's fine that, we all think it's amazing we don't use Google, or less you Google than you used to, but majority of people still, do that.
So that's really interesting, because I think I was served an ad, and it did not occur to me until we're having this conversation. But the comparison thing that I was looking for was show me consultancy in a box kind of resources. And in Perplexity, one of the follow-up questions was, how can I use Box to enhance my consultancy services? Right? So I didn't ask for Box. Box seems like not an obvious thing that you'd include in those 4. So there's nothing in it that says it's an ad, and there's nothing in when I click that and it gives me that Perplexity answer that says it's an ad either. But if I'm thinking about the service that Box offers and what I'm asking about, it does seem like, oh, well, that's an interesting elevation of that service in this 4 sort of follow-up questions. I'm not offended by it, but and I didn't notice it until we had this conversation. Like, it would not have been something.
Yeah, I feel as long as the generative answers, I can trust that it hasn't been altered to include brand messaging. Because I think once that happens, you can't trust anything. You can't trust that. Like, hallucinations aside, at least it's generating the answers, right? But once you start putting ads in there and it's like, oh, it's generating this response, I think most people would lose. I don't know about all you, but I can't. The moment if I receive Perplexity, I cannot use that, because I don't know what's actually generating from whatever I'm looking for and what is actually like an ad. Full stop, you can't use it. And I think Perplexity knows that.
I think they do too. I think that's heavy on their mind of not losing their initial, and he said it was an initial research tool. Hey, real quick, as we sort of wrap up here, Gwen said, I wonder if you could take Perplexity to do the validation for you. Well, Gwen, you ask and you shall receive. So you know what I did real quick? I took Perplexity's blog and I gave it to ChatGPT, and I took ChatGPT's blog and I gave it to Perplexity. And I said, hey, is this right? So this is for Perplexity's blog, and this is what ChatGPT said. I actually like the way he wrote this out. I like both answers, but it gives me a verdict, which is kind of cool. Likely accurate, although exact percentages may vary. 85% of consumers trusting online reviews as much as personal recommendations. Reliable, 63. Plausible, could be very demographic. Importance of website optimization and local SEO. Highly valid, here's the reason. Pretty cool, right? Really easy to read. I love that it gave me 1 through 8, quick outline conclusion. Overall, the blog provides a practical and research-backed advice with only minor variations likely in specific statistics. I agree. That's where they usually fall short. And then if we pop over to Perplexity, based on the search results provided, I'll analyze the accuracy. And then it gives me some validated claims, supported strategies, areas of concerns. So one of the areas concerns, again, is that case studies aren't backed by the provided search results. That is definitely concerning. I do think ChatGPT and probably Perplexity to a certain extent like to throw in stats there. And sometimes if you ask point blank, hey, did you make up these stats in order to make the blog sound better? It'll go, yes, I did. So you got to be careful. Where did you get your numbers from? It's not always great about pulling in real stats to support the claim. It's more about predicting the next best answer in a language model, and it can get tricky. So you got to ask and validate that. But both of them did a good job. I would say out of the two of them, Perplexity's role as a validator of quality content, I do like the answer better on there. And of course, we'd have to look at it. But anyway, Gwen, you asked like, hey, can you use another language model to test another language? Yeah, we do that all the time. Absolutely. Pay for both of these. Holy crap. What are we talking about? $20, $40, $45 a month? Get your employee to pay for this, because it's the easiest money they will ever pay for you to have the power that I just had in my hands in the last minute and a half. Holy moly that you're able to do this. The amount of whatever hours that just saved me in validating and cross-validating would be immense. And my ability as a salesperson, putting that hat back on, to do this in 10 or 15 minutes a day, because that's all we're talking about, and hand this over to a marketing and say, I know I'm your savior today. I know you guys are super busy. I know you're trying to put out new content. And also you're trying to figure out what sales needs. You're doing it backwards. Hey, I'm sales. This is exactly what I need for us to have on our blog, because I could put it in an email to a prospect tomorrow. Here, I just gave you something that's 85% of the way there. Clean it up, put it on its way, get it approved, and put it out there. You're helping marketing. You just made somebody in marketing look like a hero. You're doing the right thing in sales because you're pushing the right type of content over to them instead of them being siloed, right? And you're putting net new content out there that's actually helpful to your prospect needs. Huge. And it took me 10 minutes.
Let me just finish with a follow-up to, Jyunmi's very good point that ChatGPT does search YouTube. Not only that, it searches for all kinds of videos. I've been playing with it while we've been on the show here. And it found a video that I was looking for that didn't happen to be on YouTube, but was featured on Yahoo News. So it's really, really good. It shows all of the videos on the right-hand side, and it's blazing fast. You're right. Wow. It delivers the search results instantaneously.
So look, more to come on this, right? Like, we'll leave it there. Hopefully, if you watch this last 50 minutes of the show, you maybe, I don't know that any of us are particularly one side or the other. I know we all have our, like, what we like to use and what we're used to and stuff, or like generally likes using Perplexity. But hopefully, if nothing else, you've seen maybe the strengths and some of maybe the apparent weaknesses. Of course, these are just limited use cases, but it gives you something to sort of work for. And what I would say to anybody is, please don't just pick one or the other today. It's too early. And your use cases could really differ. So you just may find out that Perplexity is always better for what you need it to do. And that's fine too. But they're both powerful tools. I think it's very important that it was built inside of ChatGPT, to Jyunmi's point, because I don't want to have to go other places. So it'll be interesting to see what Perplexity does. Like Karl, you said about getting involved in all these other places and being ubiquitous, and Perplexity is available everywhere. That could be the way that they continue to keep their moat deep and strong, and make sure that they're relevant well into 2025 with their new $9 billion valuation. So, okay, we're going to wrap it up there. This is a good result. It's a good search result for Friday. It's a good wrap up for Friday. Yes, thank you, Jude. Have an amazing weekend. We will be back on Monday, and Monday is an American holiday. I know we don't have, not all of our audiences in the US, but it's we'll be here, and so we're gonna have a bit of a is Veterans Day, so we're gonna have a bit of a veterans theme for the show on Monday. So if you're interested in that, come hang out with us. And then we have a bunch of other great, amazing topics coming up as always the rest of the week. So that's it for us. Go to thedailyAIshow.com if you want to sign up for the newsletter. Oh, Beth just said it's Remembrance Day in Canada. I wasn't aware of that. Excellent. All right. So it's a holiday in both countries. So we'll be here. I'm not sure who will be here, but some of us will be here on Monday for another great show. Have a great weekend. I was saying go to thedailyAIshow.com if you want to sign up for the newsletter so you can get the next edition that'll come out on Sunday morning. That's it for us. Have a great day. And have a great weekend. 3-day weekend, hopefully, for some of y'all.
Oh.